Hi souls, welcome to my channel where Harvey's Gonna Die. So this is the second part of the book haul that I posted last week. This is going to be all fiction, and I'm going to break it down based on who got what. So let's go ahead and dive in. And we'll start with my husband's stack of books. There's a lot of them. I don't know anything about these books. I'm going to literally just read the back of them and we'll both discover what these are. So this is Expanded Universe by Robert E. Heinlein. This kind of sounds like it's going to be a sci-fi. It does not say what this is about. It just has a bunch of quotes by other people reviewing it. If there is anything that can divert the land of my birth from its current stampede into the Stone Age, it is the widespread dissemination of the thoughts and perceptions that Robert Heinlein has been selling as entertainment since 1939. That was by Spider Robinson. A fascinating look into the mind of the most influential sci-fi writer of all time. Recommended. Locus. So it is a sci-fi. I've not really dug into sci-fi, so that's probably the reason why I don't know who this is. If anyone who's big into sci-fi knows who this is, then you can tell me more about him. Let me read this. I'm trying to be careful because this cover is trying to fall off. A letter from Mrs. Robert A. Heinlein. Amidst all of the fan mail coming in on Expanded Universe, I find that I must pause to advise you of what is happening. The mail on this book has been coming in quantities we have never dreamed of. Almost every day we receive about half a dozen to a dozen letters telling Robert how much people have enjoyed this book. It seems strange to us because fan mail has a tendency to drift in slowly when a new book is out, but this has been coming in a flood. Never has any book of Robert's had this amazing response. Some of it is from people who are or have been in the military. More is just from people who have read the book. All of it is friendly and much of it heartwarming. For over 30 years, I have been reading fan mail and answering much of it, but this response has amazed me. Virginia Heinlein. So this is a really well-liked book that I know nothing about. If anyone knows anything about the Expanded Universe, let me know, because this literally doesn't really tell you anything about it. So it looks like most of my husband's books are sci-fi, more cyberpunk related, so this kind of sounds like maybe it is also probably cyberpunk, or it's just sci-fi in general. He's really big into cyberpunk right now, especially the video game, the Cyberpunk 2077. He has got thousands of hours on that, and he's been playing it like 20 plus times, restarting the story and everything, new characters. He's been playing on his PC, but his PC doesn't really play it very well, so he's playing on his consoles. He's playing it everywhere. He loves that game. So he's also really big into William Gibson, Neuromancer. He rereads that trilogy, Neuromancer, constantly, and the short story collection that goes with it. As a backstory, because I'm about to go through a bunch of William Gibson. But before we go through that, we have Cyber Killers, which looks like it is a... Oh, Terry Pratchett's is in this one. This is a collection of sci-fi with different authors. William Gibson is in this. Terry Pratchett is in this, which is interesting. That's struck my fancy. I'm interested in cyberpunk, but I've never actually read anything. So this looks like it's broken down in sections based on the general consensus of the story. And there's like a good handful in each section. There's only 3 sections in this, but it's a big chunker because it's got a bunch of stories in each section about a certain aspect of cyberpunk. So this will be interesting to read. I might actually read it myself. And then we're going to go through William Gibson because there is a ton of William Gibson here. After my husband raided through the nonfiction and stuff, he decided to go up into the fiction area, and he was looking around and immediately caught his eye on Gibson. There's like a whole shelf full of Gibson, and he immediately just like wiped them all out. So let's go through them all. So the first one I got here is Virtual Light by William Gibson. 2005. Welcome to NoCal and SoCal, the uneasy sister states of what used to be California. Here the millennium has come and gone, leaving in its wake only stunned survivors. In Los Angeles, Barry Rydell is a former armed response rent-a-cop, now working for a bounty hunter. Chevette Washington is a bicycle messenger turned pickpocket who impulsively snatches a pair of innocent-looking sunglasses, but these are no ordinary shades. What you can see through these high-tech specs can make you rich or get you killed. Now Barry and Chevette are on the run, zeroing in on the digitalized heart of Datamerica, where pure information is the greatest high, and a mind can be a terrible thing to crash. Interesting. So he's got that to read now of William Gibson. And then we have Idoru by William Gibson. 21st Century Tokyo after the Millennial Quake. Colin Laney is here looking for work. He is an intuitive fisher for patterns of information, the signature an individual creates simply by going about the business of living. But Laney knows how to sift for the dangerous bits, which makes him useful to certain people. Chia McKenzie is here on a rescue mission. She's 14. Her idol is the singer Rez of the band Low Res. When the Seattle chapter of Low Res fan club decided that he might be in trouble in Tokyo, they sent Chia to check it out. Rei Toei is the Idoru, the beautiful, entirely virtual media star adored by all Japan. Rez has declared that he will marry her. This is the rumor that has brought Chia to Tokyo. True or not, the Idoru and the powerful interests surrounding her are enough to put all their lives in danger. A lot of these sound really interesting to me, and I want to pick them up to read myself. So he already has the Neuromancer, but he has like the new version of Neuromancer. So when he saw this on the shelf, he had to pick it up just for a collector. I'm trying to be careful with it since he wants to collect it. 1984. So it's an older edition. It's not the first printing, I don't think, but it's an older edition. He's going to put it on his special shelf, I'm sure. He calls that his special shelf for all of his collector stuff. It's actually Gibson's debut novel, according to this. I'm kind of blind as to what it's all about, but it's one that my husband highly recommends. He does say that his writing style isn't for everyone, so you either love it or you're going to hate it because of the writing style. It'll be interesting to know where I end up in that. So now we have, this is kind of, okay. I was trying to read this because I thought that was text, but it's here. Pattern Recognition by William Gibson, which I don't know anything about either. Case Pollard is an expensive, spookily intuitive American design consultant with an international reputation. In London, to evaluate the redesign of a famous corporate logo, she's offered a very different assignment. Find the creator of the haunting, enigmatic video clips being uploaded to the internet by a party or parties unknown. Followers of the footage, and Case herself is one, are generating massive underground buzz worldwide, and her new employer values buzz infinitely more than money. But with her London apartment burgled, her email hacked, and the records of her Manhattan therapist stolen, she begins to suspect that more is at stake here to someone than she could ever have imagined. Still, Case is her father's daughter. Win Pollard, Cold War security guru, was never a man to be deterred by the unimaginable, but the Cold War is over and Win is missing, presumed dead, somewhere in Manhattan on the morning of September 11, 2001. Case is soon phase-shifting through parallel universes of marketing, globalization, and terror, heading always for the still points where the three converge, from London to Tokyo to Moscow, and finally into the eerie aftermath of the Soviet eco-disaster. She follows the implications of a secret as disturbing and compelling as the 21st century promises to be, a secret that may ultimately belong to her alone. When was this published? September 11, 2023. Gotcha. And then the last William Gibson book is the Peripheral. I can't say the word, but another William Gibson, which again does not have what it's about on here. It is inside the book. Flynn Fisher lives down a country road in a rural, I can't say the word, rural, near future America where jobs are scarce, unless you count illegal drug manufacturing, which she's trying to avoid. Her brother Burton lives, or tries to, on money from the Veterans Administration for neurological damage suffered in the Marines Elite's Haptic Recon Unit. Flynn earns what she can by assembling products at the local 3D print shop. She made more as a combat scout in an online game playing for a rich man, but she has had to let shooter games go. Wilf Netherton lives in London on the far side of decades of slow-motion apocalypse. Things are pretty good now for the haves, and there aren't many have-nots left. Wilf, a high-powered publicist and celebrity minder, fancies himself a romantic misfit in a society where reaching into the past is just another hobby. Burton's been moonlighting online, secretly working security in some game prototype, a virtual world that looks vaguely like London, but a lot weirder. He's got Flynn taking shifts, promising her the game's not a shooter. Still, the crime she witnesses there is plenty bad. Flynn and Wilf are about to meet. Her world will be altered utterly, irrevocably, and Wilf, for all of his decadence and power, will learn that some of those third world types from the past can be badass. Interesting. So this is like revolving around gaming and stuff in the cyberpunk world. So those are all the Gibson books that he has. And then he picked up this Book League edition of The Mutiny of the Bounty and Other Sea Stories by Murchie. I don't know his full name. Okay, it's not just one author, it's multiple authors about seafaring and everything. Someone said on Instagram they watched the film adaptation of The Mutiny of the Bounty, which I didn't know there was an adaptation of. I don't think he read the book, but now that he sees this, he wants to read it. This is a really cool copy, by the way. It's got like a, you can't really see it, but there's like a seal on it. This was published 1937. So this is a 1937 copy of these. So those are all of the books that my husband got for the fiction section, and then we will go through all of the books that my brother-in-law got through the fiction. Starting with A Night to Remember by Walter Lord. I'm pretty sure this is a fiction. I think I learned that this is like a dramatization of accounts that were rumored to revolve around the Titanic. If I'm wrong, if this is considered nonfiction, I'm sorry, but this is like more of a historical fiction dramatization of the real deal, which I really fascinated by the Titanic and stuff, so I might pick this up to read myself. I do believe this is a pretty popular book that I've never read before because someone mentioned that was a classic. So there is this, which is all revolving around the Titanic. So my brother-in-law likes to look at really old fiction books and the covers and stuff and just go in blind. So all of these other ones are just going to be random things. Starting with A Circus of Hells by Poul Anderson. Really cool vintage cover. This is 200 Light Years from Home. Ace Lieutenant Dominic Flandry was not a man easily swayed from his duty to the Empire. Not, that is, until Galactic Vice King Leon Ammon offered him a 1,000,000 credit bribe, a voluptuous woman called Jana, and a chance to explore a dark treasure-laden moon. So this is a sci-fi. An infernal chess game on a forsaken moon where every move was checkmate is what's on the front of it. I don't think this is a series. This is also a 1970 version of this book. And then we have Swords of the Horseclans by Robert Adams. Very cool cover, vintage cover. Milo the Morai's northern kingdom is under attack by the first wave of raiding boats from the pirate islands. To stave off the barbaric forces of King Zastros and his savage hordes, Milo must control the warring factions within his own far-flung empire. Brute strength and agile cunning are needed to form and hold together a strong confederation of loyal nations in the first ordered states since the cataclysm. Travel into the world of the future, into a time when man is recovering from a series of disasters that have altered known geography and thousands of years of civilization. Earth's new man is gifted with supernormal mental powers, but also cursed with a primitive environment. Progress is measured by survival. So it's futuristic, but it's in an apocalyptic world where it kind of reverted back into old times, is what it sounds like. And also supernormal mental powers and stuff. Interesting. Other Pinnacle books by Robert Adams. Coming of the Horseclans, Swords of the Horseclans. So it sounds like this may be book 2, but My brother-in-law just grabs random books. He doesn't care if it's part of a series or not, and reads them, and if he likes it, he'll go back and read the other ones. Okay, now we have The Horse Lord by Peter Morwood, and this actually says number 1, so this is the first of a series. Centuries ago, the Horse Lords had ridden into Alba to defeat the evil master sorcerer Kalar Kururik and banish magic from the land. Now an ambitious lord has once again meddled with dark forces, unleashing the power of Kalar Kururik on the unsuspecting and unprotected horse lords. With Castle Dunrath besieged and overrun by sorcery, only the young warrior and heir Aldrich survives to seek vengeance on the enemies who have slain his clan and stolen his birthright. But alone, even Aldrich stands little chance. To fight dark magic, he too must make alliance with magic. And rescued from pursuers by an aging wizard, Aldrich finds the ally he seeks, and a quest that will send him to challenge a dragon's wrath in hopes of winning the one weapon of power which can destroy a creature 500 years dead. That sounds like a crazy adventure. Very wild. I love these old school covers. What would you call these kind of like wild fantasy and futuristic sci-fi books? Let me know. So we have this cover. He is covered, but he's shirtless. This is Mooncrow by Jack Massa, and it's like a winged buff guy on the cover. The greatest wizard hero since Conan. The vast and angry airship of the Moldorn covered the skies with a war-dark cloud, and in all post-glacial Earth, only one keep remains free. It is here, in the far north hall of the Adepts, that an army is being prepared to stop the hideous advance of the Empire of War. A one-man army, Mooncrow, entertainer and healer, wizard and warrior, sword wielder, card sharp, and spy. First time in paperback. So this is like a fantasy sci-fi? Yeah, the new fantasy adventure of a world where science and magic cross blades. So it's like a sci-fi fantasy type of book. Interesting. And then last that he has picked up is The Power of the Serpent by Peter Valentine Timlett. I had to look at the side because there's a sticker on there. The saga of brave swords and demon lust in a hell war for human souls. Druthin, is it Archmage or Archmage? I don't know how to say that one. It like flip-flops in my head. I don't know which is the proper way to say that. The druid cult called his priests of the sword when Mog Agorn defected to the demon powers and besieged sacred Stonehenge. Not only was the survival of druidry at stake, but the fates of humanity as well. For Mog Agorn had made an awesome pact with the dark forces. An awesome pact. He'd bedded his only daughter to spawn a vile champion from the depths of hell, and he'd sworn mankind's unborn children to the evil one in return for victory. Okay, that sounds wild. Jeez. It's always these weird ones. Looks like this is book 2, and the first book is called The Seed Bearers. It'd be interesting to see what my brother-in-law thinks about all these crazy books. I might actually read them myself because they do sound wild. Okay, now it's on to my selection. I'm going to go ahead and go through the manga and the graphic novel I got at the comic store before we go into the used books that I got. So I have Uzumaki by Junji Ito. So I have been seeing Junji Ito everywhere. I'm wanting to read manga. This is my first manga ever. I tried to read a manga that we have. We got a few manga, but it's manga that my husband back in teen, young adult era picked up. So they're not really my kind of manga. So I have this one now, which is horror manga, which is more right up my alley. I went into this blind. I don't know what this is about. I just know that a lot of people recommend it. I read this is the recommended one that you pick up if you want to get into Junji Ito before you go into anything else. I don't know if that's true or not, but I have this now. It is a big book. So I'm not going to pronounce the names because I know I'm going to butcher them, but this is basically about a cursed town, but it's not haunted by a person. It's being haunted by a pattern, a spiral, the Uzumaki. And this is a single volume of this manga, so I don't have to buy multiple. By the way, there's some really cool, crazy artwork in here, but it's like horrific, so I don't want to show it on here because I don't want to scar anyone's minds. If you've ever seen the artwork of this, then you know what I'm talking about. But I'm really excited to get into this. I'm really excited to start my first manga and jump into more if I like this as much as I think I'm going to. And then the graphic novel I got is the first volume of The Sandman by Neil Gaiman. So I've watched the TV series of The Sandman, and I am really into Neil Gaiman. I read Coraline and The Graveyard Book, which are both children's books. And then I read Good Omens, which is by Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett. And then when I watched the TV series of this, I said I wanted to pick up the graphic novels of this because I really liked the story. So now I have that. And this volume collects the story arcs, preludes, and nocturnes, The Dollhouse, and Dream Country from Sandman 1 through 20, including the first comic book to ever win a World Fantasy Award, issue number 19 of Midsummer's Night Dream. And if you don't know what the Sandman is about, it follows Morpheus, the King of Dreams, and his kin, the Endless, which the Endless are basically personifications of like dream, like life, death, desire. Maybe life's not on there. Death is. So I have the short story collection, Endless Nights. I do believe my brother-in-law picked this up, but this is literally just the short story collection, and I was told not to read it until I read The Sandman. So I have this to read after I read The Sandman. But this is literally just one volume, and there's I think there's 10 volumes of this. This is a big graphic novel to dive into before I get into this. But this is literally just short stories revolved around the Endless. I do believe the chapters are their names, so let me read that. So we have Death, Desire, Dream, Despair, Delirium, Destruction, and Destiny. Those are the Endless. So I'm really, really wanting to get into that. I really like Neil Gaiman, and I like graphic novels, so the fact that I can have a graphic novel, Neil Gaiman, and there you go. Speaking of Neil Gaiman, let's jump into the books that I picked up at the used bookstore, and the first one is Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman. This is a book that a lot of people have suggested that I read. I'm going in this blind again. I don't know anything about Neverwhere besides people recommending that I read it. So let me see. Richard Mayhew is a plain man with a good heart and an ordinary life that is changed forever. On a day he stops to help a girl he finds bleeding on a London sidewalk. From that moment forward, he is propelled into a world he never dreamed existed. A dark subculture flourishing in abandoned subway stations and sewer tunnels below the city. A world far stranger and more dangerous than the only one he has ever known. That sounds pretty typical for Gaiman. Is this magical realism? I'm still trying to learn what magical realism is. Is this what this is called, or you just call this fantasy? But either way, it sounds interesting to me. I'm excited to read it. What I basically did is I looked for authors that I have interest in picking up and reading more books of. So Neil Gaiman being one of them. And then I also looked for Stephen King. So Neil Gaiman and Stephen King, they don't have a whole lot to choose from. But I found this by Stephen King. Gwendy's Button Box is the first of, I think, 4 books. It's by Stephen King and Richard Chizmar? I don't know how to say his last name. When I was looking at Stephen King a while ago, I saw this as a recommended on Amazon, and I read about it and it sounded interesting, so I added it to my wish list, which now I'm remembering I should probably take off. It's a novella, obviously. Someone did recommend if I'm not into bigger books by Stephen King, I should read smaller ones. Of course, this is by Stephen King and Richard Chizmar, but still. A brand new Castle Rack novella. Okay, so someone tell me, do I need to read something else before I read this? Because it sounds like this is a continuation off of something. I should probably do research to see whether or not I should. I know this is the first book of the novellas, but now I gotta see if I need to read something else first before I read this. And then I went into the young adult section, and I was looking for Percy Jackson because that is one that I've been wanting to read. I've never read Percy Jackson before, but unfortunately he didn't have the first book. He had several others, but he did not have the first book. He said, unfortunately, because of the new TV series, people are coming in here and buying up the Percy Jackson. So I couldn't find Percy Jackson, but what I did find was Eragon by Christopher Paolini. And this is the first 2 books. It's Eragon and Eldest. I've never read these either. So since I found this, and this is the first 2 of the books, I decided to pick it up. And I know that a book recently came out in this series. That's the reason why I decided to look, because a lot of people are rereading these to refresh their mind in order to read the new one. So I was like, you know what? That sounds like fun. So I decided to dive in. We'll see if I like it. And that is all of my books and all of their books, and the haul is over. I will see you next Wednesday. I don't know what I'm going to be doing next Wednesday. I will plan it out later. I know I usually have a idea to say what's going to be happening next so you can look forward to it, but I don't. I don't at all. I'm very scatterbrained right now, so I'll figure that out later. But until then, like, comment, subscribe. Bye, souls.